I got a couple of minutes before people start showing up. So I will use this time. Take a sip. One. Eat my pasta and meatballs. This is going to be a fun show. But I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes to log in. Gives me a chance to set up. Because tonight we're going to talk about Trump. More specifically, tonight we're going to talk about Trump and his rally in Wildwood, New Jersey. Thumbs up. Not mentioning the brand. Some winery wants me to advertise for them. They can pay me. All right, but I'm keeping track of what that is because I'll buy that. I'm gonna buy that one again. That one's pretty good. All right. So we're gonna kill the music because tonight's show is gonna be a lot of fun, and I would much rather get into it than spend too much time on the setup. Now, hopefully I don't get too many beeps, in which case I'll have to adjust my settings, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Donald Trump was in Wildwood, New Jersey on Saturday, held a rally. It was the biggest rally in history, as far as I know. 100,000 people. Posted a video about it, and people were all over the place with all kinds of crazy comments. Some of them made sense. Some of them were absolute nonsense. Some of them were kind of thought-provoking, and that's what we're going to talk about. For those of you who, if you look at my name, I live in New Jersey. Now, I live in Hoboken, which is in North Jersey. And Trump's rally was in Wildwood, which is at the very bottom of South Jersey. Saturday, when I thought about going down there because I wanted to see the rally for myself. The real thing I was going to do was I wanted to show the audience. So it's kind of funny that this whole audience thing came up. Because whenever Trump has a rally, if you look at the camera angles, you don't get a good sense for the audience. I don't even think Fox News has given a really good sense for the size of Trump's audience, which surprises me. But I thought, you know what? I could go down there and I could film the rally. I could do a live stream. It would probably be a good live stream. And I could show the audience. And my thought was, I'm going to make it fair. So if I go down there and there's a tiny audience, well, that's what I'm going to show. If I go down there and there's a massive audience, well, that's what I'm going to show. But the point was, people will get to see what the audience is like. Good or bad, that's up to, his supporters and how many of them show up. That was the plan. But it was a Saturday, and if you live in the area, then you kind of know. Like for me to get from Hoboken to Atlantic City, which is a little bit north of Wildwood, that's like 2 hours when there's no traffic. Now this was the weekend, and we're talking about the Jersey Shore. So now I'm thinking, well, that would take me like 3 hours just to get to Atlantic City. But there's also an event, and if there's a big old crowd, well, that could be like a 4-hour drive. So I didn't feel like driving 4 hours to listen to what might be a 2-hour speech and then driving all the way back. But I didn't have to, because we got good footage of Trump's rally, and we got to see what the crowd was like. So we're going to talk about all of that. But I am going to start with a statement. Some people won't like the statement, some people will, but it's the statement. I don't understand why Trump did his rally in New Jersey. We'll talk about that, but it's not because I don't think clearly he can draw a crowd. My thing was, Trump's been tied up in court for weeks, and he had a day off, and he used it wisely to hold a rally. That makes sense. I was wondering why he didn't do his rally in Pennsylvania. Because if you go back to like the electoral map, there are 6 swing states for this election. Pennsylvania is one of those swing states, and the margin for victory in Pennsylvania was really close. It's like 70, 80,000 votes. So I was thinking, well, if I'm Trump, I'm going to go to Pennsylvania because I want to go impact, a state that's a swing state. If he turns Pennsylvania, he might win the election. Well, let me say it this way. If Trump wins Georgia, which I think he's going to do, and he wins Pennsylvania, game over. He wins the election. It's that simple. He doesn't have to win Pennsylvania, but he does have to either win Georgia or Pennsylvania. I think he's going to get Georgia. I don't see how he doesn't take Georgia. That would be the biggest fumble in the history of elections if he didn't win Georgia this time around. So I don't see that happening. But Pennsylvania is in play. It's like either take Pennsylvania or take Michigan. If you don't take either one, that might be the ball game. So that was kind of my question. But kind of going back to the rally, I gotta say, when I heard about the rally and I heard the numbers came in and they were weird at first. Because the first report I got about the rally said that first I heard there were like 10,000 people, and I thought that's not that big a rally. So then I was thinking that's small. How could he have this rally after he's been off the campaign trail for so long and he only got 10,000 people? Well, a little bit later I got another report, and the next report was a huge jump because it said that the number of attendees at the rally was between 40,000 and 100,000. Now that's a wide error range, but I thought, well, okay, now we're starting to talk about something. And I'll admit, I didn't believe 100,000, not because of the source, but it was just 100,000 people showing up for a rally. It's hard for some people to comprehend how big 100,000 people for a rally is. Here's perspective. If you ever watched the Super Bowl, or you watched like Taylor Swift do a show at the Super Bowl, the whole place is crowded. That's not 100,000 people. A Super Bowl stadium is going to fit like 60, maybe 70,000 people, something like that. So if you're talking about 100,000 people, like literally think about the last time you watched the Super Bowl and you saw the whole stadium packed. You would have to go around that whole stadium, and then you'd have to go halfway around that stadium again. That's about 100,000 people. So that's what number they were talking about. And the first time I heard it, I didn't believe it because I thought, how could Trump get more people for a rally than you get at the Super Bowl? So I was curious. It's like, my gut reaction was, I don't believe that number. It's just too high. I don't believe Taylor Swift doesn't make that kind of number. So then I started looking up pictures of the rally because I wanted to see, well, does he have 100,000 people? If you have 100,000 people at a rally, you're going to see a very specific kind of picture. Somebody's going to have a picture with a sea of people. Not just people walking around, not like one tiny crowded, corner. No, I'm talking about people standing shoulder to shoulder with other people who are standing shoulder to shoulder with other people. Like literally a sea of people. You look out and it's crowded and you can't see the ground. You can't see the background. It has to be a big wide out shot. Like I tell you, I went online because I wanted to see how big the crowd at this Trump rally was. And you know what? I had to scroll down. It was curious that I had to scroll down because when I first Googled the rally, the first pictures that came up on my screen all showed small numbers. And I thought, okay, none of these suggest 100,000 people. But when I scrolled down, it was like the Cape May Herald. And this rally was in the county of Cape May. So I'm like, okay, this is like a real source. They're not going to lie about the turnout at their own rally. And when I got there, they had the shot that I was looking for. There was Trump on a stage. This was a wide-out shot. It was like a helicopter shot or a crane shot. And there was just this wave of people. Now, there weren't 100,000 people in the shot. There were too many people. You couldn't have 100,000 in the shot. The shot was cut off. And in what was cut off, it was people standing shoulder to shoulder with people who were standing shoulder to shoulder with people. It was exactly what you would expect. Like when you look at those Times Square shots, now Times Square is different because you might have like 1 million people in Times Square. So it's not that, but nothing is that. But it was that same kind of congestion. And I thought, wow, Trump has 100,000 people showing up at a rally. That's incredible. But I'll admit, the concern I had was, why are you doing this in New Jersey? I don't get that at all. Okay, now I'm gonna warn everybody right now because I already saw the comments. Some people are zealots. They don't want to hear anything except, their favorite story. Right. If you're one of these people who thinks Trump's going to win all 50 states in the election, like, turn this off for like 2 minutes because you're not going to like the next thing I say. Like literally, just let me give you like a 3, 2. Let me do this. Can't count today. 1. Okay. I didn't understand why he did the rally in New Jersey because Trump's not going to win New Jersey. New Jersey is a blue state. There are red states that are always going to be red. There are blue states that are always going to be blue. Some states, it's like, okay, voted Biden, Hillary Clinton, Obama, Gore. Literally, and New Jersey happens to be one of those states that goes blue like that. So I thought, well, wait a minute. Why are you doing this rally here? Biden's margin of victory in New Jersey was like 700,000 votes. So, that's not a state that is easy to convert. And, some people don't want to hear that. I get it. But I try to be very practical about things. There are states that can be converted. There are states that probably won't be converted. And the question is, what are you going to do to convert people in the states that can be converted? Now, all of that said, okay, so that was the spiel. Had to get that out there. I want to be fair about everything. Talk about the good, talk about the bad. Now, all of that said, I also listened to Trump's speech. I listened to the whole speech. And it's funny because when you look, this is kind of common, and it's almost like a comedy at this point. Trump will say things and it'll get mischaracterized. That's kind of the modus operandi. And I don't think that really helps. I think that helps Trump with his base. I don't know if it converts anybody, but it is a little bit underhanded to always misquote somebody. I don't like that. For the most part, Trump's speech, it was a rally speech. He's out there and he's telling people, all the good things he's done, all the good things he's going to do, encouraging them to vote, all the stuff that's very standard that you would expect. Oh, and before got to remember this, click like, click subscribe, click the notification bell. That way when I do shows, you'll be notified of the content so you won't miss, because I often do just pop-up live. Okay, so Trump gets mischaracterized a lot, and it happened again with this speech. And it's weird because in his 90-minute speech, for the most part, his speech was legit. He did one weird thing. He read like this poem about a snake. I'll talk about that later. That was like strange, but everything else was pretty much on par with what I would expect. What he got mischaracterized though on is this whole Hannibal Lecter thing. If you haven't heard, people keep saying, why was Trump talking about, my dear old friend Hannibal Lecter? And they're making him sound crazy, like he's painting Hannibal Lecter to be a good person. But not even he really wasn't. He wasn't doing that at all. That's just not true. If you listen to the speech, there's a point in the speech where Trump is talking about Biden's open border policy. And more specifically, what he's doing is he's talking about the criminal element that's coming into the country as a result of the borders being too open. Now, he was specifically saying, look, there are mental institutions and then there are insane asylums. And he said insane asylums are mental institutions on steroids. Okay, so remember, he's just set up this story where he's talking about an insane asylum and what the people in an insane asylum are like. He just did that. And then he transitions to Hannibal Lecter. So there was a point. He's saying, look, insane asylum, the worst of the worst. Hey, Hannibal Lecter, our good friend Hannibal Lecter, that's the context that he was using. So it wasn't him just being weird, like he was actually building a story. What he was doing was he was saying that some of the criminals who are coming in as a result of the open border policy are as dangerous as Hannibal Lecter. Now, sure, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but he's using sarcasm and he's making a speech, so he embellishes a little bit. I haven't heard of cannibals coming into the country, but you get the point. He's saying, hey, insane asylum. This is the level of criminal that he's worried about, and that's what he's building his platform on, is keeping that kind of criminal element out. So understood all of that. Let me see. I had comments up here, but my comments disappeared. Somebody do me a favor and type like 1 in the chat. I just want to see if my comments disappeared. I don't know what happened to them. If people are making comments, I don't want to miss them. If nobody's making comments, then I'm not going to worry about it. Let me see. Oh, okay, there they go. Oh, shoot. Okay, I didn't have my comments on for a second. I don't know what happened there. Okay, let me just read the comments because my comments were off. Apologies to anybody who left a comment and was wondering why I didn't respond. So, property cash flip. Hell yeah, Trump, Trump, Trump. Okay. Troll Boogies. Yep, Troll Boogies, welcome back. Trump 2024. Kloops. I can't stand Taylor Swift. I don't really listen to Taylor Swift. I don't know her music. I listened to a Taylor Swift album once. This was like 4 years ago. I just wanted to understand why she was so popular because I didn't get it. I listened to one of her albums one time, and I listened to a Beyonce album one. Yeah, it was whenever they had that big beef, and like Taylor Swift won album performer of the year, and Beyonce didn't, and they argued. So I just wanted to listen to both their albums and make my own decision. I kind of like Taylor's music better than Beyonce's, but I don't really listen to either one of them. Troll Boogies. This guy's the man. Everybody don't forget to hit those 3 little buttons in the top right corner and like and subscribe. Thank you, Troll Boogies. Okay, what's this? Rob's Art. He lied to get his first bank loan, and then a KKK member advised to spend it on a boat. His daddy. I'm not going to get into all of that. Where do those stories come from? Some of that I can kind of understand. I've heard the rumors. This whole boat thing, okay, whatever. I actually thought he got his first loan from his dad. Like his dad gave him $1 million and he took that $1 million and he built it up to stuff. That's what I thought, but I don't really get into his history and that kind of detail. Let me see. Because it's his hometown. Let me see. Rob's Art said because it's his hometown. Oh, okay. You were just adding to that. Who is this? Kevin McMeekin. Hey, Kevin McMeekin. Let me know what state you're voting in. Okay, we got somebody whose name I can't pronounce. Hello, girl. A troll. Okay. Troll a little harder. Rob's Art. I thought Taylor Swift was a boy. Illinois. Okay. Illinois. Beyonce looks. Kevin McMeekin. Beyonce looks 10 times better. 10 times better than Taylor Swift. I'm not going to get right. Beyonce and Taylor Swift are two very different body types. Some people will like one, some people will like the other. I don't think either one of them are unattractive. I think they're both attractive women. One of them's married, and one of them I think is on the road to getting married. So we'll see. Kevin's in Illinois. Okay, so you're in Illinois. Yes, they are. And then Rob's Art going to New Jersey was his reason for rally. It's his hometown. Okay, the problem is, I don't know. Some people will argue this. I don't know why. Trump's not going to win New Jersey. And let me be clear, because I'm not like trying to bash Trump or praise Biden in this regard. Trump's not going to win New Jersey, just like Biden's not going to win Texas. That's just a fact. There are certain states that you already know are going to vote Republican or Democrat, and it's not going to change. If you look at the margin of victory Biden had in New Jersey, it's crazy. It's 700,000 votes. So as big as Trump's rally was, he would need 7 of those to get the number of votes he's trying to catch to win New Jersey. So think about this. He needs like 700,000 votes to win New Jersey. But in Pennsylvania, so you're going from needing this in New Jersey to needing that in Pennsylvania. He only needs like 80,000 votes. That's why I didn't understand this. I'm like, wait a minute. If you just go to Pennsylvania, you only need this many votes. Like, I understand a rally in Pennsylvania. I don't understand the rally in New Jersey. That's more of my thing. Like, why is New Jersey a priority? He did get a lot of news for it, but I don't know what that's really going to do. And I'll say this, because I was listening to his rally. Some people were saying, oh, he got a lot of people from Pennsylvania at the rally. I didn't hear that. He actually made a comment, and this is the thing that I found one of the things I found curious. He made a comment when he was, addressing the crowd, and he kind of said, hey, how many people are here from Pennsylvania? I understood why he was asking that. And there was a very small amount of claps to that. Now, these are people, let's face it, this was a popular rally. People cheered every chance they had to, every chance they got to. But when he said how many people are here from Pennsylvania, there weren't that many. And I wouldn't expect that. That's not a knock on Pennsylvania, it's just a fact. If you go from Philadelphia to Wildwood with no traffic, that's like 90 minutes, okay? Now, this is Saturday, and everybody in Jersey drives down to the Jersey Shore on the weekend. If you're not from here, that's just how it is. Everybody likes to go down to the shore on the weekend. And there was a big event. And it wasn't just a big event. This was a massive event. This was a 100,000 person event. So that 90-minute drive with 100,000 people, that might have been like 4 hours. Because without the people, that could have been like, double it, make 3 hours. So add another hour for all that traffic. You pull up Google Maps and you're looking at the road and you're thinking about the trip and you see, oh, this is going to take me 4 hours. I can see a lot of people that wouldn't do that. Now let me see. It's right next door. People came from all over the tri-state area. Some people did. Who said that? Let me give credit where. Inmate one. Okay. Inmate one. Yeah. I don't disagree with you that he got some people from Pennsylvania, but most of that crowd was New Jersey, just judging by when he was talking about the people and they were clapping for the states they represented. There was a huge round of applause when he was talking about New Jersey. Small amount of applause when he was talking about Pennsylvania. Led me to believe not a lot of people from Pennsylvania were there. And it is also another point to this. I mean, if you think about the rally, who do you think was at the rally? Well, Trump supporters were at the rally. That's who generally is going to go to the rally. Rallies aren't really about converting people. Not if you hold it like that. That's just about making sure that your voting base turns up at the polls and votes. If you want to convert some voters who are on the fence in Pennsylvania, in let's say in Philadelphia, you need to go to Philadelphia. Don't ask them to drive 4 hours if they're on the fence. That's not how people are. They're not going to go driving 4 hours to see if maybe they should change their mind. They're going to sit back and say, nope, I'll wait until there's something more convenient. That's just how it is. But let me see. Spitfire Shine says vote blue. Rob's Art. Publicity for him in halls on way to court or worse. I hear what you're saying. I'm going to tell you something, Rob. I don't think anybody really cares about this Stormy Daniels case. I don't really care about the Stormy Daniels case. I don't doubt that Trump and Stormy Daniels fooled around. I'm willing to believe that happened. I don't know it, but he didn't give her money for nothing. I don't doubt that he used his funds to pay her to keep quiet. Didn't work. I mean, she's blabbing one way or the other, but just like, okay, he did that. I'm pretty, I don't know it, but I believe it. But I don't really care. I'm like, okay, Bill Clinton had some misconduct. There are plenty of presidents who've had some misconduct. I'm not going to hold him at fault for something that a lot of other people seem to have done. It's like, whatever. And if you look at the case, I'm no lawyer, but what I've read, basically there are like two levels to the crime that he would have committed. One is basically a misdemeanor. The other is serious, but it doesn't look like it's what he did. Essentially, not to get too off topic, but I'll close this off and then come back to the rally. The way it works is this. All right, let's say he spent money to pay Stormy Daniels to shut up. That's a crime, but that's not a serious crime. So you get a slap on the wrist. You're not going to jail for that. Now, if you falsified business records so that you could commit a second crime, that's when it's serious. But nobody really seems to be accusing him of that, and that doesn't seem like it's what he did. Like, if he falsified records so that he could spend an hour with a prostitute, okay, that's one crime leading to another crime. That's serious. But if it's just, hey, here's some money, go shut up, no, that's not serious. He's not going to jail for that. Not unless they figure out like some very weird, perverse way of spinning that narrative. And I haven't heard anything even close to that yet. We got a bunch of new people who jumped in. So again, click like, click subscribe. So you'll be notified in the notification bell. So you'll be notified when I do my pop-up lives. And we'll come back to Inmate 1, the unexpected COVID-19 release. No thanks, Spitfire. We've had enough. COVID-19 release. Explain what you mean by release. I'm not sure about that. Rob's Art, Homeboy fans. Trump did his rally in, if you look at the New Jersey map, he did his rally. I get why he did his rally there. Look, that's right on the water. It's a great location. You've got the Wildwood casinos there. Atlantic City's really close. And that area, Cape May, is a red county. There are a couple of counties where if you're going to do a rally as Trump, they make sense. Cape May is one of them. And let's face it, he pulled that off brilliantly. 100,000 people turned up for the rally. Yeah, that made sense. He figured out where to go and when to go and how to do it. Can't fault him for that. But I don't think it's going to win him voters. That's the problem. Because, I don't think it's going to change an outcome. Because you can't flip Jersey. I don't see anybody flipping Jersey. That's just not going to happen. Inmate 1. Oh, that's your, okay, never mind. Inmate 1, the unexpected COVID-19 release. That's your name. Got it. The way this appears on my screen, it looked like inmate 1 was your name, but okay, I get it now. He isn't going to hammer away at Jersey. He will do a few rallies in blue states in areas that lean more red or on state borders. Yeah, he might do that, but I don't think that's an effective strategy. He's gonna, he has to go. Right? There are only 6 states that matter. There are 6 swing states. If you look at 2020 and 2016, 44 states either voted Trump or voted Clinton-Biden. Those 44 states are not about to change their mind now. They're going to do what they've always done. 6 states matter. And Pennsylvania happens to be one of them. Georgia, I would say, matters the most to Trump because that's one that he's probably kicking himself and saying he shouldn't have lost, which I agree with. But he did, and he needs to get that back because if he doesn't reclaim Georgia, he won't win the election. It's that simple. But I don't think Georgia is going to be tough for him to win. However, Pennsylvania, that's a different conversation. I don't think he's going to win Pennsylvania. I think he's got to focus on like Michigan or Wisconsin, mainly Michigan, because whatever Michigan does, Wisconsin seems to do. But he did mention in his rally that he seemed to be thinking about Wisconsin, so who knows? He may pull, some sort of strategic maneuver out of his back pocket, start focusing on Wisconsin. I get that. Michigan, I think, is going to be harder for him than Wisconsin, so we'll see. But yeah, I think he has to go. It's not about the blue states. It's not about the red states. It's about 6 swing states. And I think he has to go right at them, and he has to hit them as hard as he possibly can because that's the key to victory. Remember, Biden won 2020. So Biden is sitting back saying, I don't have to convert people. I just need to not lie. I need to not lose people. Trump's in the position of having to convert people. He's the one who needs to flip a state. Biden's going to just sit back and say, look, I just have to hold on. As long as I hold on, I win. Can he hold on? I don't know. But 2 very different strategies. Inmate 1, he will probably have 5 or 6 rallies in Pennsylvania before November, though. He might, but all right. Trump's been in Pennsylvania 3 times so far this year. He did, what was it, like Bucks? There's this place called, basically he took 2 counties. He did a fundraiser in one, and then he had a rally in another. But those were red counties. So he went to places where he's already got support, and he had events in those. And then he did one other event, and he did it in Philly, which is smart, but it was SneakerCon. He went out. Remember SneakerCon? He's got those gold Nike high tops that are selling for $4.99. He made like 1,000 of them, and they sold out in a day. So there's $500,000 minus the cost. SneakerCon's not going to win you, Philadelphia. You got to do something. You got to go in there and you got to campaign. You got to make some promises. You got to tell people that you're going to do something that the other guy's not going to do. That's how you get people to vote for you. I haven't seen him do that in Philadelphia yet, and I don't understand. I don't understand what he's waiting on, because that's what's so surprising about Saturday. Saturday seemed like the perfect day to go to Philadelphia. Start campaigning in Philadelphia. That's a place you need. You don't need New Jersey. Well, you're not going to get New Jersey. That's more to the point. You're not going to get New Jersey. You might get Pennsylvania. So, put your effort where it matters. But that's me. Rob's Art. They went to see him on January 6th. Yeah, the whole insurrection. We'll come. That's a whole separate. Once you go down that path, that's a whole different conversation. He should have just pled guilty. Guilty to, what? He hasn't been charged with insurrection. So what are we saying he should have just pled guilty to? Rob's Art, taking the papers. Inmate 1, it isn't a crime. It's called an NDA. Non-disclosure agreement. Yeah, that's true. He didn't, falsifying business records, yeah, that's a crime. But that's kind of like speeding is a crime. It's not so much that you falsify business records, it's the impact of falsifying business records that is more of the issue. Trump's a billionaire. We're talking about what, like $150,000? I'll be honest. What I don't understand why he. Let me say it this way: if I was Trump and I needed to like bribe Stormy Daniels to shut her up, I wouldn't have given her cash. I would have taken like some jewelry that I have. People look at cash; they follow cash trails. If you got some jewelry, you go to a jeweler, and you're like, I'm going to buy $500,000 in jewels, and I'm going to give some of this to Ivanka. People aren't really going to be paying attention to what I do with my money if I'm buying jewels for my wife and for myself. I'm just doing regular old stuff. And I would have given Stormy something. It's like, look, here's this ring. It's worth $150,000. And here's this guy who you can go to. He's a jeweler. Already talked to him. You go talk to him, and yeah, he'll give you $150,000 for this ring. She's paid off, and nobody's even looking at it. That's what I would have done, something like that. There would have been zero cash trail, and there would have been zero interest in paying attention to what I was doing. If I would, I'm not saying I would do, I wouldn't, well, I'm not married. I wouldn't cheat on my wife if I was married, but if I cheated on my wife and I was running for the presidency and I needed my mistress to keep her mouth quiet, I would do something more like that. I wouldn't give her cash because it's too easy to track. Too many people get nosy when they see cash moving around. I just wouldn't have done that. I think there are much better ways to handle it, but that's me. Let me see. Rob's Art, Government Papers. He's from New Jersey, obviously. Stephen Tracy. Welcome, Stephen. The only swing state that Trump is not leading in is Wisconsin, and he's close by 2. Okay, so Stephen, you're talking about the polls. I'm going to tell you, I did a video on this. I don't believe the polls. I really don't. Unless the polls were done by like Nielsen, a company who's got a reputation for doing the polls, I don't believe them because it's very easy to fake a poll. Here's how polling works, and this is why you have to look at the source. I can go to any state and I can show that any candidate is leading. All I got to do is I got to look at the state and say, okay, which counties are blue and which counties are red. If I want to go to Texas and say that Biden is leading, you know what? I'm going to do a poll and I'm going to really focus on Austin. And if I hammer Austin, guess what? Austin's going to vote for Biden. Suddenly I'll come back with poll results that say Texas is going to Biden. It's not. That poll would be misrepresenting the actual situation. But you can fake a poll very easily. If you look at the polls, okay, Republican media networks will say that Trump is winning. Democratic media networks will say that Biden is winning. They can't both be right, but they're both pushing that narrative. And I bet they both have poll numbers that show what they want to show. But that's the point. You can manipulate a poll to get the results you want. You don't really have to do anything. It's just, I want my numbers to look a certain way, so that's what I'm going to do. So that's why I don't trust the polls. I do think Trump is leading in, I would expect Trump to carry Georgia. I don't expect him to carry Pennsylvania. I think Biden has a head start in Michigan. Trump's going to have to figure out what he's doing there. Or, I've heard him, in his speech, he was talking about Wisconsin and focusing on Wisconsin. Okay, if he focuses on Wisconsin, that's a strategy, but, so Wisconsin's harder because if he gets Georgia and Wisconsin, I think he still needs another swing state. Any other swing state, and he can win, but now we're starting to talk about, he's down at the goal line and there's almost no time on the clock, and he doesn't have a lot of options. He has to be successful. That's a hard road for him to try to follow. So we'll see. Inmate 1. I'm not saying he's going to flip a bunch of blue states. I'm just saying it isn't a huge investment to throw a few rallies in blue states here and there. So, yes and no. And I mean, this is, all right. Let me frame it this way, Inmate 1, because I hear what you're saying. And this is literally kind of where I'm going. If Trump has a lot of time to campaign, and he has a lot of, he's got a lot of days on his calendar where he can be on the road, yeah, hit the blue states, hit the red states, hit them all. Generate as much interest as you can. I get that. But Trump had like one day off from his hush money case. So if I've got one day to do a rally, and then I got to go back into the courtroom and I'm going to be tied up in court for weeks, for my one day, I want to hit a state that's really going to matter. I want to hit a city that's really going to matter. That's more of my issue. It's not him visiting blue states, down the road. It was him saying, look, I got one day to do a rally and I'm going to go do it in a state that I'm not going to win. That's what I thought. Why would you do that? He got great media attention for it, no question about it. People were talking about the crowd and how huge it was and how record-setting it was. But that just gets people who were already going to vote for Trump excited. And if you look at the crowd, what did you see? You saw red MAGA hats. You saw blue Trump 2024 flags. That's a group of people who were already going to vote for Trump. That's what he attracted. And that's well and good. But he, in my opinion, he needed to spend that day trying to win some new voters. And new voters in New Jersey is useless, but new voters in Pennsylvania, that's useful. That's very useful. So that's more of the point I'm making. Let me see. Stephen Tracy. Trump is ahead in the polls in Pennsylvania and all swing states. Next step for Wisconsin, where he only trails Biden by 2 points. Come on. Yeah, we talked about the polls. I don't believe the polls. Polls are baloney. Except for Wisconsin. Wisconsin is the only swing state President Trump is not ahead in. Okay, that's more about the polls. He's only behind in one swing state. That's okay, so we're still talking about that. Let me see. According to two of the latest, we're still talking polls. Yeah, okay. So we talked about the poll. I don't believe the poll. Unless the poll is Nielsen. If the poll is Nielsen, okay. Nielsen has a reputation for doing polls. So if Nielsen does a poll and it says something, I believe it. If it's anybody else, I'm going to have to look at the source, because then I don't trust them. It's like they want to tell a certain story. Let's face it, they're getting paid to tell a certain story, so that's the story they're going to tell. Let me see. Rob Zart, that's what Donald said, then cried when he lost in 2020. Sat back. Yeah, Trump lost 2020 because of two things: COVID and vote by mail. If he told his people to vote by mail, he'd have won, but he didn't. That's on him. He's got to own that. His margin for, when you look at his margin of loss and you look at the number of votes that came in by mail, he would have closed that gap easily. And that's also why he kind of changed his stance in the governor races that followed and started telling people to vote by mail. He started to appreciate the impact of voting by mail. He's still within the margin of error in Pennsylvania. Yeah, he is. Look, he can win. Look, he can win Pennsylvania. He absolutely can win Pennsylvania. But he needs to convert people. If everybody in Pennsylvania goes to the polls and they vote the same way they did in 2020, we're going to have the same result we had in 2020. Biden's going to win Pennsylvania by about 80,000 votes. Trump needs more people to show up and vote for him, or he needs to convert people. It's easier to get more Trump supporters to go to the polls than it is to try to flip a Biden voter to a Trump voter. So a rally in Pennsylvania makes sense if he does that. But he didn't do that, and that's where I don't get that. Let me see. President Trump did not lose in 2020. That election was stolen, and you know it was stolen. All right. See, this comes up a lot. I don't believe. All right. I don't believe that the 2020 election was rigged. I don't believe that the 2016 election. I think the elections are legit. I'll tell you why. Let's focus on 2020. Chris Krebs is the head of cybersecurity. It was his job to make sure that that election was secure, that there was no funny business. Now you have to know who Chris Krebs is. Chris Krebs is a lifelong Republican. He was on record saying he voted for Trump twice. He was a huge supporter of Donald Trump. And Chris Krebs, this lifelong Republican, got no reason to lie. If anything, he would want to say that the election was, that there was funny business because it would help his candidate. Chris Krebs said that this was the most secure election in history. He made that exact statement on record. The most secure election in history. If anybody knows about funny business happening in the election, it would be Chris Krebs. He is the expert on the topic. And when he said that, that removed all doubt from me. I wondered about things before then, but when he said that, I'm like, okay, the guy who's supposed to know, who happens to be a lifelong Republican, who said he voted for Trump twice, just said this was the most secure election in history. I don't know how you argue with that. Now, they said there were dead voters, but when they went to fact check that, they didn't find any. They said that, maybe the balloting machines were switched over, but when they investigated them, they didn't find it. Not only that, but Dominion sued the Mike, whatever his name is, My Pillow guy, sued everybody for defamation for saying that they rigged the machines. So I haven't seen any evidence that 2020 was rigged. People say it was rigged, but there's nothing to support that. And Mitch McConnell was one of Trump's biggest advocates when Trump was president. He supported Trump. They were lockstep all the way. And Mitch McConnell, the day that Biden took office and was sworn in, Mitch McConnell went down to the Senate floor. He's a politician. He's not loyal to anybody. And Mitch McConnell made this speech, and I'll never forget this, because they showed Mike Pence, and they showed the look on Mike Pence's face, and it was fun. Mike Pence couldn't help laugh when he was looking at what Mitch McConnell was doing. Mitch McConnell completely sold Trump out. He said that he talked to Trump and said, you show me evidence, you show me one shred of evidence, and I will go to war for this. I will make sure that we get fair results from the election. You just need to give me one piece of evidence, anything, and I'm going to go to war, and we're going to set this right. And then Mitch McConnell said he didn't see one shred of evidence. This was Mitch McConnell. This was Trump's brother in arms, and he sold Trump out the day Biden got sworn in. So I got Chris Krebs saying most secure election in history, and I got Mitch McConnell saying he didn't see a single shred of evidence that the election was tampered with. So I don't believe it was tampered with. If somebody shows something, okay, but until they show something, I'm going to believe the experts. Let me see. Inmate 1. Yeah, like and subscribe, Inmate 1. You got some great comments. I want you to attend the live stream. And everybody else, like and subscribe and click the notification bell so that you are aware of the pop-ups when they come in. This summer is going to be very busy. I agree. Notice, though, Biden is doing something interesting. He knows that Trump is tied up, and Biden is doing a lot of social media pushes to get his message out. He did a CNN interview. He did a Howard Stern interview. Biden is kind of taking an interesting approach where he's using technology to kind of push his message out while Trump can't really do anything. I don't blame him for it. Look, that's smart. Let me get my message out when my competitor can't put a message out and get it out to as many people as I can. Let me see. Stephen Tracy. Everybody knows that the insurrection was a setup. It's a lie, and in fact, it wasn't an insurrection. The insurrection was about George Floyd. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about there. Okay. I don't know what you're talking about, Stephen. I mean, January 6th, the Capitol did get stormed. They videotaped that. A police officer died. Was it Ashley Babbitt died? That really happened. Now, should it have, who caused it? That's one thing. But if you're saying it didn't happen, I don't know what you're talking about. That was on TV. It was filmed. Yeah, I mean, people are in jail because of what they did on January 6th. So, I don't understand that. Let me see. They burned the whole country down. Nothing got burned down at January 6th insurrections. Have guns showing up. There were no guns. No, you don't need guns to have an insurrection. You need a crowd and a riot. They did have zip ties. There were people. Not all. I mean, this was not an organized event. January 6th wasn't organized. There wasn't somebody saying this is what we're going to do. It was a mob, and the mob just got, you know, they got a little bit too focused on getting into the Capitol building. You know, it's one of those things. One person, you know, it's like dominoes falling. The first person who decides to rush into that building motivates the next group of people, which motivates the next group of people. Next thing you know, you got a ton of people in the Capitol. But that's illegal, storming the Capitol like that. Let me see. The pipe bombs were set up. It was all a setup at January 6th, and you know it was. No, I don't think January 6th was any kind of coordinated event. It was madness, but it was an insurrection. It wasn't yeah, we have to agree to disagree on that. President Trump isn't guilty of anything other than being targeted by the deep. Oh, okay. Stephen, you're starting to sound like a. All right, well, yeah, now you're sounding like a conspiracy theorist. Targeted by the deep state and a bunch of brainwashed fools. I mean, look, these legal cases against them. It's no coincidence they're all happening now. Yeah, no coincidence at all. They're happening now for a reason. It interferes with his campaigning. I get that, but you know, that's kind of par for the course. I think when Trump refused to facilitate a peaceful transition of power, he made enemies. Pretty simple. He decided to say, you know what? I'm not going to acknowledge that Biden is president now. I'm not going to, you know, on January 6th, I'll hold my own rally when he's being sworn in because I don't want people to accept him as president. Now, that's Trump's right. But when you do that, I think you make enemies. And I think that's why people said, you know what? You're going to pay for this. You just made an enemy in me, and I'm a dangerous enemy, and I'm going to wait. They're basically going to sit back and wait for 4 years to hit him when it hurts, and that's what they're doing now. I don't think he needed to say he lost. I think he could have just said, you know what, for the good of the country, Joe Biden is the president now. I mean, let's face it. Was it George Bush and Al Gore? That was a contentious race. I mean, that one went to court. And Gore finally, you know, he acknowledged, okay, for the good of the country, we need to move on. I'll concede. He didn't say he lost. He just said, you know, we can't be stuck in this place. Trump could have done something like that. He didn't want to. That's his choice. But that's part of what I think this is all about right now. It has now come out that the supposed top secret classified documents case is all a setup. The evidence was tampered with. Yeah, okay, Stephen, we're gonna have to see where your comments are going, because some of your stuff is a little bit conspiracy theory crazy. Rob's art. The January 6th thing was not a whole different thing unless you know different. It was a rally until he stopped his speech. Yeah, I'm not saying Trump told people to go storm the Capitol because he didn't. But people did go storm the Capitol. And the people who did go storm the Capitol were, you know, that was illegal. Let me see. The fact is that January 6th was, okay, Stephen Tracy, because Trump is going to win 2024. And you won't be able to steal it this time. It's too big to steal, too real to steal. I don't know if Trump is going to win 2024. He can win 2024, but that's not a given. Here's real talk. If everybody who voted in 2020 goes to the polls, if it's the exact same people, and they vote the exact same way they did last time, Biden's going to win. Biden's going to have about 300, a little over 300 electoral votes. Trump's going to have a little over 230 electoral votes. If the exact same thing happens as 2020, we're going to have the exact same result. Trump has to turn states. That's what this whole thing is about. If he turns states, he can win. If he doesn't turn any states, he won't win. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he's going to win Pennsylvania. And honestly, I don't know how he's going to win Michigan. Now, he's talking about Wisconsin, and that makes sense. But I haven't seen what he's going to do in Wisconsin. He's got to do something. He's going to do some campaigning in Wisconsin, and Biden's going to do some campaigning in Wisconsin. And Biden's got a head start because Biden won Wisconsin in 2020. So Trump has to do more than Biden to win Wisconsin. We're going to have to see if he can do that. I don't know if he can. Let me see. The RCP aggregate is pretty accurate historically. Let me see. I'm not sure where you're going with that. Not even CNN says that Biden is winning right now. So I think it's going to depend on, well, okay. I need to know what you mean. I haven't seen any polls that say Biden has a decisive victory, that he's got a decisive lead. I've seen some people say that the polls show Trump leading, but they haven't quoted Nielsen as their source, and it's easy to fake poll results. I don't know where people are going to get their poll results, but I've heard people say that Trump has a sizable lead. I mean, people are in the comments saying, "Hey, he's winning all 6 swing states." I don't believe that. I don't believe he's ahead in all the swing states right now. He might take them all. I don't think he's ahead in all 6 swing states right now. So I question the source when I see stuff like that. I think that right now it's very close. I think right now it's kind of, it could go either way if you get an honest poll from people, from states. And we're going to have to see how this plays out over the next several months. R. Hansen. Welcome, R. Hansen. January 6th was a stain on U.S. history. A lot of misguided people who were led to believe the election was stolen. The crowd was whipped up into a frenzy and into a mob and then directed to march. Yes and no. Trump didn't send an angry mob to the Capitol. Well, let me say it this way. Trump didn't tell a group of people to angrily go storm the Capitol. Let me be more specific. He did know that the people in his audience believed the election was stolen because he told them the election was stolen. He told them to go down and march peacefully. He said something to the effect of, go peacefully, protest, that kind of thing, which was weird. It was like, okay, you didn't win the election. Don't tell people to keep fighting the result. That's my personal thing, but he chose to. That's him. But I don't think you can convict him for what he's done because I don't think he did anything criminal. It's kind of like if I live in a neighborhood and I'm talking to my neighbor because somebody new moved in and I say, you know what? I don't like this new guy who moved into our neighborhood. I think he's bringing the property values down. Well, if my neighbor goes and beats him up, okay, I didn't tell him to do that. I kind of planted an idea in his mind. I gave him the motivation, but I'm not guilty of actually trying to get the guy hurt. I mean, this guy reacted. Sure, I might have expected a reaction, but he overreacted. That's kind of the thing. Like, I didn't expect the overreaction. You can't fault someone for not expecting the overreaction. That's not really their fault. Let me see. There are over 300,000 missing ballot images in Georgia. Just saying. You know what? When somebody can hand me a smoking gun, I'll believe it. I've seen, they accuse people of being dead voters. They accuse people of voting too many times. They made a lot of accusations. And every time they put things up to put them up to a pressure test, wasn't true. So tons of accusations. I just say, what? Show me the pressure test. Show me where this got pressure tested and it was legit. We both know there's no way Biden cracks 80 million votes in this economy and state of the world. Well, I don't agree with that. All right, let's talk about the 80 million votes because it's important to understand this. Because again, I think the election was legit. Let's go back to Biden-Clinton. When Trump and Hillary Clinton competed for the presidency, they both got about 65 million votes. Hillary actually won the popular vote, but the popular vote doesn't matter. She lost the Electoral College. Lost it by a lot. Trump kind of wiped the floor with her as far as the Electoral College goes. But they both got about 65 million. Now, the next election, Trump-Biden, Trump got 75 million. He grew by 10 million. Biden got 80 million. So he got the extra 10 like Trump did, but he got 5 million more on top of that. Why? Because he told people to vote by mail, and that got a lot more votes than anybody was expecting. Trump underestimated what vote by mail could do. You got to remember, there was, people believed that there was a deadly contagion floating around, and somebody's telling you to go to the polls to vote. No, there are people who decided that they weren't going to vote that year because they didn't want to risk their life. Now, would they? I won't get into like the how lethal COVID was at that time and all of that. The perception was there was a deadly contagion in the air, and I know people who didn't go vote because they didn't want to risk COVID. How many? I don't know. But Biden made that a non-issue. Vote by mail. Don't have to worry about it. So, yeah, I think Biden got 80 million. It's legit. I mean, if you look at the numbers, makes sense. Trump got 75, Biden got 80. Okay. I don't have a problem with that. Nobody seriously looks at singular polls anymore. You have to look at aggregate. That average out multiple polls to lower biases. I don't do that. All right. Technically, yeah, if you look at enough polls, you would expect there to be enough polls that go right and enough polls that go left for you to be able to get to an average. But that's not what people do. People go out and they get a company to do a poll, and then they report that result. And it's usually because that result supports their narrative. That's what news networks aren't reporting news. They're reporting their narrative, their spin on the news. Like, here's some news. We've got a tight election. Well, I want to say that Biden's winning. Okay, let me use numbers that support my story. Or I want to say that Trump is winning. Well, let me use numbers that support that story. That's what people do. Nobody's unbiased. They just aren't. That doesn't sell as well as, fire from the mountain about how things aren't going your way, or how our guys really have to put a big surge in to make things happen. That's what sells. That's what sells. It's just what sells. However, let me go to. We got some crazy comments that came in about the Trump rally, and I do want to talk about some of the stuff that people were saying in response to the post about the rally, because I think it's really interesting. You can go to Real Clear Politics and look at the top line, which is the aggregate. Then below will be all the polls it's using to calculate the average. Fair enough, but I'd have to go and I'd have to look, because if they used a lot of polls, but they used a lot of polls that were biased one way or the other, then they still got a biased poll. I have to go and say, look, who are your sources? If all of your sources are liberal, or all of your sources are conservative, or if they're heavily biased one way or the other, that means the result is biased. It's kind of like, I'm saying, how tall are people on average? And I over-index in, measuring people who play basketball. Well, they're a little taller. Now, I could say I did 10 samples, but it's like all of your 10 samples were people who play basketball. So you think the average height is like 6'3", and it's not. It's like 5'9". You have to look at whether the sources were biased. It's not just the number, it's the sources. Are the sources unbiased? Let me see. Viper007. I am a moderator for a few YouTubers, and none are live. So I'm still wanting to tell people to like and subscribe. Thank you, Viper. Yes. Everybody like and subscribe and click the notification bell. Yeah, I don't remember to say that enough. I got to get used to all of this. Let me see. Inmate 1. Just saying, you may find it interesting. You'll have to see for yourself. I'm not going to convince you of anything I know. Yeah, I mean, you know how it is. I'm going to have to go look with my own 2 eyes. That's just how I expect. I tell people things, and I don't expect them to take everything I say at face value. Gotcha. Appreciate that, Viper. I try to get people to go look things up for themselves. Because some people will just argue silly stuff where it's like, look, you can go look this up. There was a woman who didn't want to believe that Trump had 100,000 people at his rally. And it was the dumbest thing I had heard because she wanted to argue with me about how many people showed up at the rally. And I just told her, look, why don't you go to Google and look up the crowd? You can do that. You don't have to take my word for anything. See how big the crowd was with your own two eyes, and then you come back and tell me that he only had 20,000 people there. Or then you come back and tell me that he had a big crowd, but they dispersed in 15 minutes. That doesn't even make sense. 100,000 people. You cannot disperse 100,000 people in 15 minutes. Think about the Super Bowl. Think about any time you've been to a football game. The game is over. How long does it take you to get to your car? If it's a big game, if it's a college game, it might be 30 minutes because you got to sit there. Everybody's filing out through the same few exits. Everybody's trying to get to their cars. People are mad. They're trying to drive through the crowd because they don't want to be stuck. And those are not 100,000 person crowds. This woman wanted to argue. I just said, you know what? Go Google it for yourself. And then you come back and tell me, because arguing a fact is kind of silly. I subscribed. You are just like the others. I help. Love this type of content. We're only at 4 likes. Smash that like button. Viper is a moderator. Okay, he knows all the tricks. I got to remember all that stuff. Let me see. Do you have a general time, days you go live? So Tuesdays, I try to always go live on Tuesdays. Tuesdays at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. This isn't the only time I go live, but I try to at least have this one consistent live because I just do like pop-ups. So I want to have a time where people know they can find me. Because sometimes I'll just like something will happen in the news and I'll think, hey, I want to talk about this, and I'll do a live, but the people who normally follow won't know, they're at work or they weren't expecting it. So yeah, Tuesday 7:30, that's typical, but it's not the only time that I do. Let me see. So I talked about the rally, and one person came back and said I diminished the size of the crowd by just calling it big. The crowd was massive. Now, I understand what they're saying, but I kind of felt like they were missing the point. I wasn't arguing that he had. I'm like, look, Trump had an incredible turnout, record-setting turnout. I wasn't doing a video to talk about whether. Definitely will be joining Eastern Standard Time. Yes, thank you, Viper. I appreciate your commitment. I wasn't trying to do a video to talk about the size of the crowd, and this guy was stuck on that. I was doing a video to talk about why he was in New Jersey instead of Pennsylvania. So some people were just kind of locked on issues that I wasn't trying to make a story out of that. This one person said he claimed 100,000 people attended when the this was the one when the venue could only hold 20,000 and it was half empty and people started walking out halfway through the speech. Sure, massive. See, I don't understand when people do that. People will just make up stuff and assume that you're not going to go look it up for yourself on Google. You can literally go to Google and in 60 seconds see how big the crowd was. Some people don't want to do that. They just want to argue because they live in that delusion. There's you got extremists on both sides. There are some people who are so anti-Trump. If you sneezed and Trump said God bless you, they'd say you're not sincere, you don't mean it, you're an atheist. They would scream like something crazy, like he can do nothing right. Then you got extremists on the other side, where if you say Trump can't win New Jersey, they want to attack you. I'm not making a crazy statement here. I'm saying New Jersey has voted Democrat for the last 20 years. It's not going to suddenly switch. You can't have a conversation with extremists. They simply cannot hear anything that's inconsistent with this narrative, this delusion that they have in their head. So I try not to get caught up in those, but sometimes it's hard. Sometimes people say things that are so crazy, you're like, why don't you just go to Google? You can literally look this up in no time. People started arguing, hey, how many people showed up for Biden? Like, who cares? But Trump did talk about, and it was funny. Trump talked about the crowds and the cameras. And he said, the cameras don't turn to show the crowd at his rallies. It's a very interesting point he made in his speech. He said tons of rallies, and he's asked the cameramen to flip the cameras around and show the size of the crowd so that people would stop debating the turnout. And they never did. And then he said that the only time he saw the cameras turn around was at one of his early rallies when a fight broke out. And there were these two guys, and one of them was getting bashed in the face. He said the cameras swung around because they wanted to show the fight and they wanted to show the problem. And he thought, wait a minute. You could have shown this crowd. You just didn't want to. But the second there was some drama that you could use to attack me, you did that. Now, the thing that I was curious about, and I don't know the answer to this, I've never seen it, but I thought, why wouldn't Fox News show the crowd? Fox News, if there's one network that I'm going to expect will show support, it would have been Fox News. Now, I don't know if they've never shown the crowds. I would be surprised, but maybe they haven't. He said nobody ever turns their cameras. So that was like a weird moment, but let's face it. I haven't seen networks really show the crowd size. I figured out how big the crowd was because I saw the news and I'm able to go to Google and I'm able to look at pictures that were uploaded about the crowd. So I do think it's fair to say his crowd size was being misrepresented, grossly misrepresented, because this was a record. There's never been 100,000 person rally turnout. So he's got a point there. Inmate 1 says cognitive dissonance is wild. Yeah, some people you just can't talk to them. One person said show the crowd. This other person, he's leading in all the swing states. Time to start flipping them burgers. I don't believe that. Trump drew a humongous crowd. This year the Republicans will take New Jersey. That kind of start. When you start with the fact Trump drew in a humongous crowd, great. But don't close with some like nonsense because then you lose your credibility. Like saying Trump's going to take New Jersey. Biden has more support than Hillary had. That much is clear. Hillary didn't lose New Jersey. If Hillary didn't lose New Jersey, Trump's not going to lose. Biden's not going to lose New Jersey. It's pretty much that simple. 6 swing states. That's the election 2024. 6. That's it. More people wanted to really emphasize how big the crowd was. This one was weird. Someone said, I live in New Jersey and I love Trump. So do all my neighbors and friends, so shut up. If you tell me to shut up when I'm running a podcast and you comment, like, do you think that's going to work? Like, I don't understand that. Not all of New Jersey is Democratic. I mean, New Jersey was like 60-40, the margin Biden to Trump. So 40% of New Jersey voted for Trump. That's a fact. Just New Jersey's got a big population, and that 60-40 ended up being 700,000 votes. If you live in Cape May County, a couple of other counties, yeah, most of the people there vote Republican. It's just there are more counties in New Jersey that vote Democrat than Republican. It's just how it is. Let me see. Inmate 1, they refused to pan the cameras back in 2016 too. Yeah, they did. There's this guy who made a comment. Like, Trump has had some comments grossly mischaracterized. Like, he did a speech recently and he made a bloodbath comment, and they're trying to make it sound like he's crazy. He wasn't advocating for violence. He was talking about the United Auto Workers, and he was talking about Biden's policies for foreign cars versus his. He was essentially saying, look, if you look at the American auto industry, if Biden is elected president, it's going to be a bloodbath, meaning he's going to make it very easy, very enticing for people to buy foreign cars instead of American cars. Now, it's a tricky topic because I'm an American. I don't like people telling me what I can or can't do. So I'll admit, I don't want someone telling me I can or can't buy a foreign car. I'm going to buy what I want. But I understand a president saying, look, I want people to be more incentivized to buy American than foreign. If you go to foreign countries, American cars, the cost on American cars is jacked up. They don't give us the same latitude that we give them. That's just how it is. That's a fact. Let me see. He could flip Maine. I have to look at that. I don't. Well, Maine is all right. Maine is funny because I think Maine splits their electoral vote. What's that like? Yeah. So I'm curious to see. I got to look at that, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. The media's misrepresentation of Trump's speech is having less and less of an impact. They will. The well will run dry. I think the well's already run dry. I agree with you. I think people listen to the media, make these crazy points. If you were already going to vote against him, okay, it gives you one more reason to vote against him. If you were already going to vote for him, gives you one more reason to vote for him. If you're on the fence, I don't think any of this stuff matters. I think most people are smart enough to, well, I can't say that. I think there are enough people who are smart enough to say, I'm going to go look up facts for myself and make a decision based on that. Officer Truth. Okay. Gotta troll. Troll harder, buddy. It isn't fair trade if it's only one way. That's true. Just saying he could flip Maine, not that he will. Okay, he could. I got to look at the margin of victory for Maine. I mean, I'll admit, I don't normally look at like Maine, New Hampshire, the Northeast. I don't typically look at that because it's heavily blue, and it's a lot of small states with small number of electoral votes. I don't remember offhand how many Maine has because I don't look at them that often. But yeah, he could. However, I still have to look at their numbers because Maine, there are two states in the union that split their electoral vote. So both candidates could get some electoral votes out of Maine. I think it's Maine, and one is in the Northeast, and there's another one in the Midwest. Maybe it's Nebraska. I have to look it up. I don't look at those states as often as I should. Let me see. One person said, my wife is from New York City, so we have friends living in Jersey. Dissing Springsteen while in Jersey is worse than criminal. Springsteen is popular in New Jersey. Springsteen is popular all around the world. You fold your, well, okay, they're basically, I don't think insulting Springsteen's going to make or break an election. He already knows he has the swing states. He needs to go places that have been brainwashed the most and try to pick them up, Trump train, and bring them back to normal. Okay. I don't believe he already has the swing states. I don't. I think he can fight and win them, but if he's banking on already having them, he is going to lose. Nebraska, yeah, that's it, Nebraska. I was like, which one is it? Okay. So yeah, there's like flipping a state is weird here. Viper showing the support. If you're new here, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to ring that bell for future updates. All right, Viper. So when I do my StreamYard, I do some StreamYards. I'm gonna have to make you a moderator. You know how to moderate. I have to think about that. Yeah, insulting Springsteen is a nothing burger. It isn't 1985 anymore. Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, that's not gonna change anybody. God bless Donald Trump. They're all swing states now except California and Vermont. That's not true. There are 44 states that are already decided. There are 6 that are not. And there's some debate about some states that might swing, but my position is 44 states are pretty much locked in given history. 6 aren't. We're going to see what happens. What else do we have here? I saw plenty of people walking away from his event. Also, the claim that 100,000 people were in attendance was worse than ludicrous. It was insulting. That was from Heinlein Reader. That's where I just say, go to Google. Go to Google. Literally, go to Google and look at the crowd. Now, did some people walk away? I don't doubt that. Look, he was on the boardwalk. There are people who are just walking by. If I saw a massive rally, sure, I'd walk over and see what's going on. If I wasn't interested, I would just keep walking after like a couple of minutes of being nosy. So yes, there are probably some people who kind of walked over, kind of left. 100,000. First of all, 100,000 people. You don't drive 4 hours to get to a rally to stay there for 15 minutes because you're bored. Nobody does that. You go to that rally, you're there for the duration. So I don't. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. But um, I can understand, like, if I wanted to film this and show like a misrepresentative angle that said people came in and walked out, sure. I just find people who are at the boardwalk, kind of walk in, kind of walk back. But it's going to be hard because he had 100,000 people. So you got to film some very funny angles to make it look like what you want. I'm not saying that's beyond people because let's face it, people misrepresent things all the time. But some people just want to believe their fairy tale. They don't want to believe the truth. Feel free to. I'm at your service. I enjoy the content. I'll gladly help. Thank you, Viper. I like that. Um, Georgia is set to swing hard to Trump. I just wouldn't shun the idea that there may be a couple of candidates to swing red. I definitely don't think that New York is going red, though. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that Georgia is going Trump. I'm surprised that Georgia went Biden, to be perfectly honest. It was close. I wasn't expecting that. But that's one that just put like this. Trump would have to fumble. He would literally have to fumble to not take Georgia in 2024. You have to make huge mistakes to not take Georgia this time around. And I don't see that happening. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just, well, all right. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means, it's unlikely. See, and there were some weird things going on in Georgia, to be honest. I'm going to, until I see the smoking gun, I'm going to stand by the position that the 2020 election was legit. Chris Krebs convinced, once Chris Krebs said it was the most secure election in history, I was like, done. The guy who's supposed to know this stuff backwards and forwards just made the most definitive statement I've heard. And he's a lifelong Republican, voted for Trump twice. Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, I know there's like a movie that was made about it. I haven't seen the movie. There are a lot of debates, but Dominion sued the hell out of My Pillow guy. I mean, My Pillow guy used to have commercials on TV all the time. He's basically vanished. I don't know how much he has left, but he's completely out of the public eye now. And Fox News had to do everybody had to do a retraction when they said that Dominion's voting booths were rigged, which meant they got sued and they couldn't defend their argument that Dominion's machines were faulty or there was any funny business. So I am in the camp that the election was legit, but I'll admit, I think if there wasn't COVID or if Trump told people to vote by mail, I think he would have won the 2020 election. But he's got to own that. I mean, he's the one who didn't want to tell his people to vote by mail. We're in the same predicament as 4 years ago. Which option will hurt less our country? Some people see both candidates as horrible options, which is weird to me because, I mean, unpopular opinion of anybody who's partisan, but the economy improved under Trump. The economy improved under Biden. Those are facts. The economy was better for some people under one president than the other, but both of them improved the economy. So we're not talking about a situation where one guy tanked the economy and the other guy didn't. Admittedly, under Trump, the economy was doing great, and then COVID hit, and the economy went into the toilet because of COVID. I don't blame Trump for COVID, but yeah, okay, it's fair to say when COVID hit, the economy went into the toilet. Mass layoffs, everything was shut down. Yeah, the economy was horrible. That wasn't just the United States, though. I mean, the whole world was a mess. Let me see. Open your eyes, brother, and you will see and feel it. Well, that depends. 100,000 plus. Okay. This person saying 100,000 plus say he made the right move. Saying that Trump had a big rally, that's one thing. Yeah, he did have a big rally. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's just, what's the point of getting all those people together in New Jersey? That's the point. New Jersey voted for Biden by a margin of 700,000 people. So all of the people that Trump had in his rally, if all of those people were New Jersey Democrats who he converted to Republican, he'd still lose New Jersey. New Jersey is a blue state. That's just how it is. Like Texas is a red state. Some states are just what they are. They're Democrat, they're Republican, they're not going to change. New Jersey has not voted for a Republican since George W. Bush Sr. That's just a fact. Let me see. Trump 2024. He wants to be the president for all people, not just swing states. I mean, both candidates want to be the president for all people, not just swing states. So I don't know, what does that mean? New Jersey deserves a choice other than, okay, New Jersey has a choice. You can vote for Trump or you can vote for Biden. You have to decide which one you want to vote for. But I know which way New Jersey is going to go. But that's what made the rally newsworthy enough to grab the headlines. Trump draws 100,000 plus crowd in a blue state. What's noteworthy is that he drew 100,000. That is noteworthy. Make no mistake about it. He set a record. Nobody's had that big a rally. It wasn't a blue state, yes, but that's a little bit misleading. I mean, if he had a rally in Princeton, would he have drawn 100,000? Maybe. But there would have been picket lines because Princeton is blue. And a whole bunch of people would have got out there and protested. He went to a red area in New Jersey and had a massive, massive rally. Gave a pretty good speech. Except for that weird, oh, okay, I was supposed to. He did one weird thing in his speech. He had this poem. I don't know why if you haven't heard his speech, yeah, it's towards the end. That was the only weird thing. It was goofy. All right. He did a poem. Now you've probably heard the story about somebody finds a wounded snake on the road. They take it, they nurse it back to health, and it bites them. And they say, "Why'd you bite me?" And the snake says, "Because I'm a snake. That's what I do. I'm a snake." Okay. That was basically what his poem was, but it was long. It was like 4 minutes long. He was reading this thing. Oh, okay. So that was like, I haven't seen that before. So I thought, this is weird. Why is he reading this snake poem? This is strange. That was strange to me. I'm like, I don't like this. That was the only thing though. But let me see. I see that inmate 1 is saying he does the story a bunch of times. That's his closing bit. Started doing it back in 2016. Okay, that's news. That's helpful. I have never heard him do that before. So that just came across. That came out of left field. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I think people thought getting Trump out of office would ease the COVID insanity. Yeah, I do. I think he lost some. Well, I think that, and I think some people lost their job because of COVID. And let's face it, if you're the president, when things hit the fan, you're the one who's going to get the blame. So I think some people were like, you know what? I had a job, COVID hit, I'm blaming you. People said you dismantled the playbook for how to deal with the pandemic, so it's your fault. As far as I know, he did dismantle the playbook, but let's be honest. If he had a plan in place at the start of COVID, that's not going to prevent COVID from happening. COVID was going to happen. It was too far gone at that point. Maybe there are a few less deaths, but nobody's going to care about that. I mean, we don't, let's face it, he could have managed COVID even worse. The death toll could have been even higher. We don't know how bad, the worst case scenario is. We just know what we saw, what we dealt with. And it was a lot of dead people. That's something that's going to impact perceptions of you when people say, you know what? This happened on your watch. Don't want to hear any excuses. It happened on your watch. You're getting the blame. And I think that cost him some votes. I think that cost him a lot of votes. Let me see. There's a stark difference between the improvements, though. Biden years turned a crap sandwich into a rotten apple. Yeah, well, some of it's Biden's Biden's economy is better for big cities, and Trump's economy is better for small towns. When I talk to people, that's the feeling I get talking to voters. So when I hear voters who are talking about the economy and times being better or worse, if they think that times were better for them under Trump, they seem to live in small towns. If they think times for them are better under Biden, they tend to live in big cities. There was a guy I was talking to last week, and he was talking about inflation and saying, well, inflation's higher. I'm like, yeah, it is, but you can't just look at inflation. You have to look at kind of salaries. It's like, it's one thing to say, hey, prices are up everywhere. It's like, yeah, but our salary's up. If prices go up $3, but my salary goes up $5, well, you know what? I have more spending power. So sure, it's more expensive, but I got more money, so I'm happier. I got more money. And that's the thing that can get you is like if you're in a small town, the prices went up $3 and your money stayed flat, inflation's hitting you in the pocket. If you work for big tech, big pharma, prices went up, but your income went up more. You're not worried about it. You're like, I got plenty of cash to burn. So we talked about him doing the story. Let me see. He went along with the COVID lockdown stuff, which was his biggest mistake. I understand that he did it for optics, but the lockdown did more damage than good. That's tough. That's a very, very tough. Okay. I understand why the lockdown happened. The lockdown was, well, okay. True story. My ex-wife is in the medical field, and she worked in the COVID ward of her hospital. And I remember, we were divorced at this time. But, we co-parent a kid, and we had a conversation because she suddenly went from working regular shifts to her hours getting ramped way, way up, and it was all, she worked the COVID ward. They're like, nope. We don't have beds. We got a ward full of people. People are spilling out. We don't have places to put these people. That was a real story. So I understood why they were saying, look, we got to try to limit the number of people who are spreading the infection, because right now we don't know. Like if you get COVID, we don't know what to do with you. We're trying to find a place to put you. So I understand the lockdown. You got to do something. Is that the way to do it? I don't know. If we just went for herd immunity and said, you know what? People, you go out, you walk around, you do what you got to do. If you get infected, well, you're going to have to deal with it, but we get through it faster. I don't know what the mortality rate would have been if we did it that way. Some countries did it that way. Some countries seem to get through COVID quickly by keeping everything open. So I get it. But I also understand somebody saying, you know what, I need to do something. And the lockdown, it wasn't a crazy idea. There's a rationale to it. It's logical. Just, do you think it was the best approach? Well, that's debatable. Biden sucks. Michael, welcome to the chat. Please click like and subscribe and the notification bell for more. Higher everything is worse for everyone. Higher prices, okay. Inflation is a hidden tax. Biden blows. Yeah, tell us what you really think, Michael. Inflation is a hidden tax. Yeah, okay, I get it. That never happens, though. Income never outpaces inflation, at least in the last 50 years. Well, okay. So let's income in general. No, you're right. I'm not thinking income in general. Let's talk about a couple of specific areas where I think income has outpaced inflation, in particular in the last few years. Tech, income has outpaced inflation. Pharma, income has outpaced inflation. If we talk about tech, let's think about, all right, people are starting to work from home. starting to use Zoom, starting to use all this tech. Kids were going to school from home. All sorts of tech, all sorts of companies in the tech industry are suddenly taking off. If you worked in tech, if you worked in the right avenues of tech, you were making money hand over fist because suddenly people are using your products like clockwork. Let's face it, you got the pandemic, everybody's disinfecting, people are taking they're taking preventative steps so they don't get COVID. These are industries where, guess what? Money is going to be flying off the shelves because people need your product a lot more all of a sudden than they did. Now, if you work at a factory, manufacturing, well, you might be losing money. The beauty industry took a really hard hit during COVID. Why? People aren't going out anymore. They don't need to get all dolled up. They don't need to get all fancy because they're going to stay at home and they're going to work from home they're going to sit on the couch. Don't need to buy new clothes. I was guilty of it. I'd wake up some mornings, I'd just throw on a shirt. I'm sitting there on a Zoom call in my boxers and a shirt because nobody can see it. I'm like, fine, I don't have to do all this stuff. I just need to take this meeting. And I need to look presentable, and as long as nobody sees below my chest, I'm good. I'm not the only one who did that. Didn't buy any new clothes during COVID, didn't care, didn't need them. Nobody's seeing me. So some industries took hits, but some industries took off. And things about like tech, pharma, big city industries. Those are industries that attract, there are a couple of places where tech is big, and they're big cities. Couple of places where pharma is big. I live in New Jersey. Plenty of pharmaceutical headquarters in and around New Jersey. We're a hotbed. Out here, you're in the right industry, suddenly you're making money hand over fist. What is this, Michael? So screw the poor? I'm not saying screw the poor. I'm talking about, okay. We're talking about economies and Biden's economy, Trump's economy helping some people more than others. I don't think that the Biden economy screws the poor. I don't think that the Trump economy screws the poor. But, let's face it. Both economies are designed so that people can get up and get to work and improve their situation. If you don't want to get up and get to work and improve your situation, well, then that's kind of on you. Now, they take different approaches. Trump's approach is to do things like, for example, Trump's approach is, hey, I want to drill for more energy. That's jobs right now that pay a lot of money that will help employ some people, and I want to do that. Biden's approach is going to be stuff like, I want to start, focusing on AI, and I'm going to give people the ability to learn a trade by the time they get out of high school, they can go into AI jobs. Both of those things can put more money in people's pockets. But both of those things require work, and neither of those things helps everybody. Drilling for energy is great if you live someplace where they're going to drill for energy. If you don't, who cares? You're not going to get one of those jobs unless you move halfway across the country. AI, those jobs are great, but those jobs are geared towards youngsters. If you're out of school, what are you going to do? You're suddenly going to go back to high school to go to a trade school to learn about AI? No. So, different people benefit from different policies, but yeah, basically, people can benefit. You just have to figure out which system is best for you. Hey, if you're new, Viper is staying on track. If you're new, like and subscribe. I prefer freedom and personal choice. Inmate, yeah. So I do too, but here's the thing. I don't know how old you are, inmate. There were things about COVID that I kind of felt were weird because, like, I understand why certain professions, they said, okay, we're going to make you get a vaccine. I didn't like it, but I understood it. They're saying, you know what? That's like a liability thing. Like, if you get somebody sick, they can sue, and we can't afford to deal with all these lawsuits, so we're not going to let anybody who works in certain industries do that without being vaccinated. I think that was just a litigation thing. Is it right? Is it wrong? It's a different thing. Hey, is it less expensive to do it than not? That's what I think happened there. Nobody, outside of like some frontline workers, the government didn't necessarily force people to get the vaccine, although industries could. I mean, plenty of companies said, "Look, you get vaccinated or you get fired." Those were companies. But here's the thing I didn't like, and maybe I'm just an old fogey, so I'm too old to be able to relate. People wanted to be able to decide whether or not they wore a mask into somebody's establishment. And if somebody said you got to wear a mask to come into my shop, people wanted to complain, and I didn't agree with that. It's like, you know what? That's that guy's company. If that's his rule, that's his rule. You can decide, well, I'm never going to shop here again, and I'm going to get my friends to stop shopping here. That's your right. But I didn't agree that you should walk into somebody's shop and say, I'm not wearing a mask despite the fact that you said it. But I kind of look at it like, and this is why I say maybe I'm just an old fogey. I remember once upon a time, companies used to have signs on the door, said no shirt, no shoes, no service. And that was normal. You'd go a lot of places and you'd see that sign, no shirt, no shoes, no service. And you just knew. If for some reason I want to walk in here without my shirt or my shoes on, they're going to tell me to get the hell out. So suddenly saying no mask, no service to me was just an extension of that. And I thought, all right, I get it. It's your company. You got the right to do what you want. I wouldn't want somebody coming to my house trying to tell me what's what. I'm like, get the hell out of my house. You don't have to like my rules. It's my house. I make the rules. You can decide whether you want to come in or not. So I get that. But like if I'm not in public, if I'm not in your shop, don't tell me what to do. It's my right. It's my life. I'll make my own choice. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but we're Americans. We're supposed to have the freedom to choose. That's part of the advantage of living in America is that you've got the freedom to choose. We got more rights, more freedoms any other country in the world, and I love that about America. But it was, it was just like it was a very weird time, and everybody was trying to figure it out. We've never had a global pandemic to deal with. It's hard to get everything right when it's new and it's the stakes are so high. That's just tough. It's tough. I don't know what anybody can do to be perfect in that situation. So, mistakes were made, but it's just part of life. Viper, yep, I work from home. Yeah, man, I work from home. I work from home. I go to a conference here or there. I gripe about it. I don't have to deal with the commute. I work from home in tech, but not a business owner. My company does not pay me any more, even though profits are way up. I'm not saying they're obligated to, but most people don't see those increases. Okay, so I won't get into my industry only because, like, if I say too, you can figure out where I work if I started to say too much. I work for a company that pays out a bonus. And if the company does better, your bonus is better. But if the company does worse, your bonus is worse. It's one of those things like you're actually motivated to work harder because you're like, look, if we sell more stuff, we make more money. There are a lot of companies, like there are a lot of consumer packaged goods, pharma. Tech can be funny because tech is it's like how they invest whatever they make. But there are a lot of industries that kind of work like that. Assuming you're in, like if you go to the corporate office, yeah, people who are on the front line, they don't get the benefit of that, which is unfortunate because they should. They're the ones making the product. But that's the reality of how companies are set up. And the guys at the tip top get massive bonuses. They get multi-million-dollar annual bonuses. The rest of us, we get peanuts or we get nothing compared to them. But that's how it is. They're making the big decisions. They get the big bucks. But yeah, okay. I was dating this woman, and she worked in food. Won't say which company, I'll just say she worked in food. When COVID hit, food took off. People weren't going to restaurants, so all of a sudden they were buying more stuff to cook at home. Food went through the roof. She said that her company gave out the biggest bonuses anybody'd ever seen because that's how well they did that year. Some companies, some people, their benefit, their income is outpacing inflation by leaps and bounds. It's not everybody. I mean, some people do, some people don't. But I can understand like that the people who do are more likely going to be, like big city, because that's where you tend to see the headquarters of big companies. They know they got a large pool of people as potential employees. So I get it. Let me see. They tried and got sued. Remember the OSHA rule that got struck down in the courts? Okay, which one? Now I've been riffing, so you'll have to link the which comment was that tied to. Let me see. Bodily autonomy. Yeah, I agree, but I mean, let's face it. Food equals gold. There's just litigation drives a lot of why people do stuff. Vax mandate. I don't agree with. All right. Well, some people did get vax mandates. Like if you worked in healthcare, you had to get vaccinated. You couldn't work if you didn't get vaccinated. Police officers were under the mandate. Not everybody was under the mandate, but some people were. Some people, it's like, you know what, you get the jab or quit working here. Because I remember there was a story about one police officer. He quit his job. He'd been a police officer for decades. And I thought it was really unfortunate. It's like, why can't you figure something out for this guy? Feels kind of rough to have a guy who's worked for you for decades, and he's got to quit his job, walk away from his pension, all this stuff because he doesn't want to get vaccinated. I know lots of people who didn't want to get vaccinated and didn't get vaccinated. I'll say I got vaccinated. I wasn't that worried about it. But for me, well, I didn't get vaccinated immediately because I was concerned about this vaccine. Like, I don't know what's in it. Feels like it was rushed. I don't want to get vaccinated. But after about okay, I'll come to that RFK in a minute. After like about 6 months of the vaccine being out, there was this doctor I was following in social media as he was talking about the vaccines. And he was basically saying, look, it's been 6 months. If there were going to be massive side effects related to the vaccine, we'd have seen them by now. And he was explaining like all the stuff, and he's like, look, people are going to make the choices that they want to make. But if you're making a choice based on concern about side effects, it's like you would have seen like 6 months of everybody getting vaccinated. No, you couldn't cover up side effects, adverse events if they were happening, because they would have happened on too big a scale. And that was what convinced me that, okay, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. I feel more comfortable with the vaccine. So then it was like, all right, cool. I'm not worried about it anymore. What are your thoughts on RFK Jr.? I think it's weird that the media is harping on him taking more votes from Biden than Trump. Okay, so I think RFK Jr. is in a very weird place. This is what I think is going on. Right now, RFK Jr. has zero chance to win. Zero. I don't think he's going to take any votes from. I don't think he's going to really make a meaningful dent in Biden or Trump because he's not going to get that many votes. He'll get some. Here's what I think RFK Jr. is doing. He's hoping that Trump gets locked up or forced out because right now it's Biden versus Trump. And I'll tell you, most of the people who are voting for Biden, they don't really sound like they're voting for Biden. They sound like they're voting against Trump. When I talked to people about who they were voting for and why, Trump supporters usually talked about things Trump did. Funny thing is, Biden supporters usually talked about things Trump did. So they weren't picking Biden for policy. They were picking him because he wasn't Trump. If Biden and Trump run, okay, Biden has a very good shot at winning. But what if Trump doesn't run and it's RFK? See, that's when it gets interesting because Biden supporters aren't as emotionally invested in him as Trump supporters are. If RFK Jr. and Biden went head to head, I don't know. RFK Jr. might win that. Nobody's even paying attention to him, and all of a sudden he becomes the front runner. He's like that guy who, sitting on the baseball team and nobody knows if he can hit, and then you call him in as a pinch hitter and he crushes it out of the park. Like it's that perfect situation where he gets up and he just smashes it. See, RFK Jr. to me feels like he's trying to do that. As long as Trump's in the running, RFK Jr. is irrelevant. But if Trump gets knocked out, all of a sudden RFK Jr. could be the next president of the United States. I don't think Trump's getting knocked out. I don't think any of these cases are going to amount to anything criminal. I think he's going to have to pay some civil suits, but that's just what it is. So yeah, I don't think RFK Jr. is going to matter unless somehow Trump can't run. Let me see. Viper 007. I'll vote someday. I honestly don't understand it. Like, I know the point, but I'm sorry, I still feel as if it's rigged. Okay, so what state are you in, Viper? Let me start there. And you said you'll vote someday. So have you ever voted? All right, let me make sure. Are you old enough to vote? Are you saying you're old enough to vote and you've never voted? Or you're not old enough to vote? And what state are you in? Because I encourage everybody. I don't care who people vote for. I say you should vote for the candidate who you feel is best. But I do want everybody to vote. Personally, I don't support Oklahoma 25. Okay. And you've never voted? Wow. I would encourage you to at least register so that you can vote if you haven't. But beyond that, you can vote. We're going to have a president. Okay, you're ready. Okay, you're registered. So you're halfway there. All you got to do is show up. You don't even have to show up. You can vote by mail. Biden or Trump is going to be president. And you're going to have a hand in picking or not. But one of those guys is going to be president. Play a part in the political process. Get your voice out there. You might be one of the guys who's like, yeah, I voted and my guy won. Or you might be one of the guys who's out there, hey, I voted and my guy lost. You have to decide who you vote for. Yeah, I can't tell you who to vote for, but I'll tell you. All I can tell you is I can tell you my decision criteria. I look at who's going to put the most money in my pocket, and that's it. Some people vote all right, some people, black people, they get this notion in their head, who's the best president for black people? I don't care about that. Who's going to put the most money in my pocket? Who's the best for America? Usually those two things are the same. That's what I look at. And if one person's going to put more money in my pocket than the other, that's usually who's getting my vote. I heard this guy. This guy was he was a Republican, but he switched to Democrat. But he had a legitimate reason. I thought it was interesting. He said that Biden canceled his student loan debt. He said that brought him out from under a crunch because he had all this student loan debt, and it suddenly went away, and it freed him up to live his life. And he said he was voting for Biden, and there was nothing anybody could say that was going to change his mind. And I thought, that's your right. You got the right to choose who you want based on the criteria you want. My goal is not to tell anybody who to vote for. I just want people to vote. And I do want them to vote with a clear understanding of the facts. Like if somebody's voting and they're saying, well, one guy helped the economy and the other guy didn't, I try to clear that up. It's like, no, both guys helped the economy. If you've got misperceptions about what's happened, I want to clear that up so that you actually vote for the candidate who you want. But it's important to understand, know the number, know what really happened, know the situation, and then make your decision. That's me. That's my thought. But let me see. More people talking about how big the rally was. More people talking about how people walked I troll, natives for the Great Orange Father. Okay, that's just trolls. People saying he wrapped up the swing states, which I don't believe. One guy said, at least I appreciate his decision. I don't. Trump can rally wherever he wants to. I don't care where he rallies. I mean, honestly, I like him rallying in New Jersey is great because it's something to talk about. He had 100,000 person turnout. That's something to talk about. It was a weird location to pick because it's not a state that I think he can win. That's worth talking about. I'm happy that he did it. I just don't understand it. This person said it's close enough to Pennsylvania to energize Pennsylvania voters. I don't believe that. I heard the crowd. There weren't that many people from Pennsylvania in the crowd based on the applause. Most of the people were from New Jersey. Now, there were some who weren't from New Jersey. There were some, but the overwhelming, in that 100,000 person crowd, the overwhelming majority were from New Jersey. As we said, Pennsylvania, that clapping was kind of quiet. And out of 100,000 people, if there was a big draw from Pennsylvania, it would have been louder than that. Trump is brilliant, sir. New Jersey will go red. Yeah. That just, no, sorry. Lots of people left after his rambling. Trump didn't really. The only part where I would say he was rambling, and this was pointed out to me, was when he read that poem. But I didn't know. I didn't know that that's just how Trump closes his speeches. I never sat and listened to a speech from start to finish. That's one of the things. Trump generates interest. If a speech is not on national TV, like a presidential address, I don't watch it from start to finish. I'll kind of listen to a little bit, but then I'll wait the next day for the news to give me the bullets. This was one of the rare times where I said, I'm listening to the whole speech. I want to know what he said. I want to make my own decision because I don't believe that the media is going to fairly represent the facts. Let me see. Welcome Brian Dowdy. Please click like, subscribe, and the notification bell. I pretty much lean right, but if Biden canceled my loans, I may be inclined to vote for him. Kind of changes your opinion of someone when they put money in your pocket. Yeah, I get that. I completely understand somebody saying, this guy put money in my pocket, he got my vote. That's basically how I vote. I've been out of school for a while. I wish he was around to cancel my student loan debt. That would have been great. Could have saved me some headache. It's crazy to me that people don't take responsibility for their own actions in signing up for student loans and then expect everyone else to pay for it. That's just so insane to me. And then it is insane. I'm actually paying mine in full next month, $34K. Yeah, so I don't think, let me not speak for all people. For this guy, yeah, and Brian's saying, but if he paid it, I wouldn't say no. This guy wasn't expecting Biden to pay off his debt. He wasn't looking to government to give him a handout. He was just saying, you know what? The government decided to pay off my student loan debt. I wasn't asking for it, but I'm darn sure not going to pass it up. So if you cancel my debt, guess what? You won my vote. Remember when those COVID checks came out? I wasn't expecting a COVID check to come out. And I'll be perfectly honest. I wasn't somebody who needed a COVID check. I wasn't going to pass it up. Like, okay, you want to send me a check? I'll take it, sure. But I think that could have been handled. I think you could have figured out who needs a COVID check, who doesn't. Let's kind of set something up so that the people who need the relief can get it. I think it could have been handled better. However, somebody puts a check in your hand, you're like, okay. All I got to do is go cash it? Sure. I'm not going to say no to that. It's free money. I don't fault somebody for taking the free money. Let me see. If you borrow money, you have to pay it back. You sign the dotted line. I agree. So I agree with that. If somebody wants to default on a loan, I don't agree with defaulting on the loan. You borrowed the money. You need to pay it back. But if somebody says, hey, I'm going to cancel your debt, and you say, sure, I'm not going to fault them for that. Well, they didn't ask for their debt to be canceled. They just said, you know what, you're volunteering to cancel it. I'm not going to argue with that. If my company gives me a big bonus at the end of the year, bigger than what what I'm expecting given my contract, I'm not going to say no. Okay, you didn't have to give me all this money. I mean, according to my contract, you only had to give me this little bit. You're deciding to give me a lot. I'm not going to go. I'm going to take the money. I'm not going to fault anybody for that. But yeah, people who don't want to pay their loans off, don't want to repay what they signed up to pay back, I don't agree with. Yeah, or just don't force people to stop working. See, that's the thing, and I agree with that. When you forced people to stop working, that threw things completely out of whack. And true story, I used to own a small business. And I mean, my business, I wasn't hitting it out of the park. I was building. It was like piece by piece, I was building up my business. And the funny thing is, I was at this point where it felt like I was really about to take off because I had this client. There was this advertising agency in Manhattan, and I gave them these reports. I did all these reports because they would basically sell advertising to manufacturers. And they're like, look, we are experts in making internet ads. We're going to show you how to run these internet ads so you get more sales. And I gave them all these reports to help them explain to their customers why they needed these internet ads. Internet ads, you get way more bang for your buck advertising on the internet than you do advertising on TV. It's not even close. When COVID hit, all of their clients dropped them, which basically meant all of the people who they were going to sell to weren't there anymore. So now they didn't need me anymore. They're like, you know what? If we're not selling to any clients, we don't need your reports because your reports help us sell to clients. So I had to shut down my business. Now it was a weird spot to be in. I didn't like having to close my business down because of COVID. But I got it. It's like, you know what? If there's no work, we don't need you. If they hadn't shut everything down, well, those companies would have kept buying advertising. The company I was working for would have kept needing my services. My company might have taken off. Now, it's unfortunate because if that happened, I would have never started a YouTube channel. I would have been too busy to start a YouTube channel. So, I like that I was able to start a YouTube channel. But yeah, I might have never been on YouTube if that had happened because I would have been spending all of my time like chasing clients down and trying to make more money that way. Not that I'm monetized on YouTube right now. Let me see. Consider liking and subscribing and clicking that notification bell. Canceling the debt with other people's money. That is true. It's just one person paying that loan off instead of another. And I don't have an issue with student loan debt not being canceled. But I understand, I'm not in college. My kid's too young to have to worry about that right now. Canceling student loan debt doesn't help me. I don't care about that issue personally. If it's coming out of my tax dollars, I actually don't want it because I don't want to spend my tax dollars on somebody else's student loan debt. But at the same time, I'm not going to complain about somebody saying they're going to take the free money. Because if I was in their shoes and somebody offered me free money, yeah, I'll take it. I'm not going to ask for it, but I'll take it. There's a difference when it's taxpayer money versus a private party. Agreed. Completely agree. I'm waiting for a CD to mature next month and I'll pay it. It's the last of my debt. Rich people get breaks all the time. Sure, rich people get breaks all the time. Rich people have great free money isn't free. Well, it's kind of okay, let me take it. Free money isn't free, yes and no. Free money to me might be free to me. Somebody's paying for it. If I got $1,000 check, that $1,000 came out of somebody's pocket. But sometimes it's like, you know what? It didn't come out of my pocket, so I'm going to take this money and I'm not going to worry about it. But on the rich people get breaks, this is a true story. True story. Beyonce and Jay-Z have a tax attorney. Their tax attorney for like 2 years did my taxes. How did I have Beyonce and Jay-Z's tax person doing my taxes? Well, this goes back. This is back when I was married. My now ex-wife, somehow through a family connection, like Beyonce and Jay-Z's tax attorney was like somebody's cousin or something. And the guy was in Brooklyn. I mean, he'd have a day every year where he would do people's taxes, regular people's taxes. And it was funny because like he wasn't taking appointments, he wasn't doing any of that. It was just, I'm opening my office doors at 7 a.m. I'm going to stay here until everybody who's in my building gets their taxes done. No waiting list because I don't feel like dealing with it. And he just had his lobby and he had all these chairs, and you get there and you get a chair. And it's next up, you just you keep shuffling down. But you have a tax genius doing your taxes. When he did my taxes, he understood he was asking me these questions like, do you do this for your business? And I'm like, not normally. He's like, no. Do you ever use this for your business? I'm like, yes, sometimes. Well, okay, you can do this. He got into all this stuff that I didn't know. He did a great job on my taxes. If I had that guy doing my taxes every year, I'd have more money because he knew stuff that I don't know. TurboTax doesn't cover the stuff he covered. He itemizes, he goes through all this. He knows every single loophole, every single trick. And he's just like, did you do this? Did you do that? So yeah, rich people get breaks, but they get more expensive attorneys who know more stuff. This guy charged more money than anybody else, but he also, he charged me more for my taxes than anybody else, but he made me a whole lot more, so it was worth it. And I'm like, you know what? Given what you just saved me, yeah, I'll happily pay this money because I can either pay less to you and pay a whole lot more to the government, or pay a little more to you and pay a whole lot less to the government because you knew how to itemize. Let me see. There is currently $1.6 trillion in student debt from federal aid. If we have to pay it off, that's another $1.6 trillion that will get printed and more inflation. We're screwing over our kids and grandkids. Are they going to print the money or are they going to reallocate? So I don't know how I don't think they're going to forgive the whole $1.6 trillion all at once. You're right. That's a lot of money to absorb, and the question about how it gets absorbed is important. So we have to see how this gets paid. Does it get paid with taxpayer dollars, or does it get paid with? Printing is going to. If they print the money, we're screwed because then we're talking big time inflation. I don't think they can afford to do that right now. We're not. We're fighting to prevent ourselves from falling into a recession. And I don't think we're going to hit a recession. The recession was supposed to hit like about now. And we've been able to manage the economy so that we're not in a recession. But there are problems looming. We could easily fall into a big old hole. A lot of free money in the stock market. Well, remember, the stock market is trade. If you make $1, somebody lost $1. So sure, there can be a lot of free money in the stock market, but it kind of goes back to that free money isn't free. For everybody who's making some money, somebody's losing money. The stock market is just dollars changing hands. You bet it was going to go up. He bet it was going to go down. One of you was right, and the other one lost some bucks. Let me see. Stock market and Bitcoin, so confusing. Okay, Bitcoin is its own. Stock market is one thing. Bitcoin is different. Bitcoin is weird. I'm not giving investment advice. I love speculating on cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency is ridiculously overvalued right now. People are trading on sentiment. It's like a baseball card. A first edition Babe Ruth baseball card. That's worth a whole lot of money. But to be perfectly honest, I could get a computer printout of that first generation Babe Ruth baseball card, and you might not be able to tell the difference. You're buying it based on emotion. It's got a sentimental value to you, and that's what you're really paying for. And that's what's happening with cryptocurrency right now. This whole notion that fiat money is being, I don't buy into any of that because let's face it, money isn't physical right now anyway. I don't walk around with cash in my pocket. When I go to work, my check is electronically deposited into my bank account. Never see it. I get an email. I pay for things with my credit card. I go to the ATM. I go to the ATM machine if I'm going to like Atlantic City and I need some cash so I can gamble. Otherwise, I don't really need cash. So this whole notion that that cryptocurrency is providing electronic money to people is baloney. We already have electronic money. And money is electronic right now. Bitcoin is useful in certain situations. If you live someplace where your economy could collapse because of corrupt government, if you live someplace where you got to worry about your dollars being stored because of criminal elements, this gives you another way to store it, a way that kind of removes you from that. But I don't know. Bitcoin, one day the value of that thing, one day, I think like Ethereum, I know this is like, let me get back. I went down my rabbit hole. Ethereum is kind of different because you can actually, it's got a utility. You can build microtransactions into that. So like there's a use for it. We haven't really figured out how to take full advantage of it, but okay, you can use Ethereum to do things. Bitcoin, it's like a baseball card. Yeah, it's valuable because somebody else is willing to pay for it. But one day, if people say, I'm not paying for this, well, then your first edition baseball card isn't worth anything anymore. It's only worth it if other people care. The only way it gets paid, and they either double taxes or print it. What do you think is more likely? Yeah, I agree. They're either going to double taxes or they're going to print it. I don't think they're going to print it right now because I don't think we can't afford to take inflation up much. Well, let's face it, Biden is not going to print it right now when he's running for office. There's no way he's going to print it right now. So it would, anything he does has to come out of taxes. That is an interesting, figure. Whoever's president, and after this election, only has one term, so they don't have to worry about winning re-election anymore. They can do whatever they want. Would they potentially print some money then? I don't know. If it was going to get printed, that's when it would get printed because like, what do I got? I'm not worried about it. I can't get reelected. But no, I don't think that. I think that they would go the tax route more than printing. I don't think the economy can handle it right now. I think a few more categories of people will still get some loan forgiveness, but the majority of us will have to pay. Most people are going to have to pay. I agree with that. They can't afford to just forgive all the debt. But it is interesting, if suddenly 2 years of college is free, they start treating the first 2 years of college like it's high school. That's kind of like people getting their student loans forgiven. It's like you're forgiving it up front rather than forgiving it on the back end. If all those kids are suddenly going to school for free, somebody's paying those teacher salaries, somebody's paying those institutions. It's still, that's still money coming out of taxpayers' pockets. And yeah, I agree with the argument. You want to go to school, you can pay for it like everybody else. But I'm not going to fault a kid for taking free education if they can get it. Because if I was in their shoes, I'd do the same thing. S&P has historically done well if you want a long-term investment. Sure, the economy's up. Over time, the economy is always going to improve. We are a developed nation. We are continuing to grow. Investing in the S&P 500, absolutely. Personally, I wouldn't invest in the whole thing. I like investing in things like Google. Google is going to do well. Amazon is going to do well. You can pick like a couple of things that can't fail. And you say, okay, I'm just going to invest in those because I know my money's going to grow. Or if you follow like some pharmaceutical company that's working on some new drug, and you're like, you know what, in 3 years, this thing is going to either this clinical trial is going to work or they're going to fall on their face. Well, you just look and say, who's got a good clinical trial going for something that's going to be worthwhile? You're like, great, put my money in this place, and in 3 years, when this drug goes public, my money's going to like quintuple. I'm going to get 5x on my investment because this is going to be a massive drug. Think about people who invested in Pfizer before Viagra came out. Yeah, if you had Pfizer stock and then Viagra came out, you were sitting pretty. Get a Roth and put money into it until you retire. If you start young, you will be way better off than most people you know when you retire. With a Roth, you're betting the taxes will be higher later. See, I don't disagree with that. Mine is I'm less focused on investments than I am on debt. For a lot of people, you make more money by paying off debt than you do by investing. If you've got debt that's accruing like a 7% interest rate, but you're investing in things that are only getting you like a 2% interest rate, like pay off the debt. You get more, you have more money at the end of the day when you pay the debt off than you do if you invest because there's less being sucked out of your pocket. So I'm a big pay off your debt guy. The faster the better, so that you've got the flexibility with your money to invest in things, and then you don't have to take crazy risks because everything's already paid off. You do pay the taxes on income, that's true. No taxes to pull it. Yet. That's the right yet. Yeah. They all have done really well. What do you think about Nvidia? Okay, so they're good, but I haven't looked at their numbers yet. Here's the thing, because they've got those chips, and more people, like, I think Nvidia's big thing, their big market, is this whole crypto mining avenue. I think that's where they're making most of their money. And that's great, but the problem with them, they are very expensive now because of demand. If you look at where Nvidia's prices used to be versus now, I mean, they're making money hand over fist, but they're kind of poised. Somebody's going to come in. I don't know when. I don't know. This is my concern. Somebody's going to come in with a better mousetrap, and they're going to be pricing it the way Nvidia used to be priced. And when they do that, Nvidia is going to fall flat on their face. Because then it's like, you know what? Somebody's selling your product for a third of your price. What are you going to do? And that's going to be a tough spot. And I wouldn't want to have just purchased Nvidia stock when some pair of kids come out of their garage with a better mousetrap, because you're going to lose a lot of money on that. That's my thought. People may be in different places. No, I'm not going to say Nvidia's not making missteps right now, but I do think they're vulnerable. Let me see. We had someone saying that Trump's speeches are basically stream of consciousness. That's not true. I just listened to his speech. That wasn't stream of consciousness. The thing that Trump does that's weird, Trump tells jokes, but he's not a great comedian. What I mean by that is, like, he'll be talking about something and then he'll just suddenly pivot. Like, there was this moment in his speech, he was talking about something, and then out of the blue, let's talk about hot dogs. You're like, what are you talking? Wait, what? Why did we suddenly switch to hot dogs? We were just talking about foreign policy, and you suddenly just said, let's talk about hot dogs. What are you doing? And then he kind of goes back to foreign policy, and he finishes his point. And you're like, why were you talking about hot dogs? That's weird. But then he comes back. He did that in the speech, and he started talking about hot dogs, and there was a connection. He's like, he bought a hot dog. He was talking about prices. He's like, prices for food have been going up. And he's kind of making a joke, like, you know what? I bought a hot dog because hot dog inflation was lower than the inflation on everything else. So it made, like, if you followed the whole conversation, it made sense. But he kind of jumped around. So it's very easy. Like, you could clip a segment of Trump and it would sound like he's crazy. Because if you just listen to these 10 seconds, you're like, what are you talking about? But when you listen to it in its context, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, it was a weird transition, but like, it was a transition. So that's, like, I can see people saying that, but you kind of have to, you got to look at the context, and that's what doesn't happen. Funny thing, all right, this is more of a Biden thing. People say that Biden sounds like he's talking from a teleprompter all the time, even when he's not, and they criticize him. I learned something. Biden did this interview with Howard Stern, and I didn't know this about Biden. Biden was a very bad stutterer when he was a kid. So bad that, like, his teacher made fun of him. His mom and his teacher got into a big thing once because the teacher made fun of him for his stutter, and he, like, walked out of school. He was embarrassed. He was mad. What Biden said he did, like, people who stutter can learn how to stop stuttering, but, like, they have to figure out a mental trick to stop stuttering. I mean, I saw, what was that, Steve Harvey? He used to be a bad stutterer. And he had a woman who, you know, he was doing his show, and she stood up with the mic, and she started talking. She was stuttering real bad. He told her to walk down to the stage because he takes that really seriously. And what he did with her is he said, walk with me and talk to me and like tell me something. And when she was walking with him and talking, she didn't stutter. I mean, this was a woman who was stuttering horribly. But he said, see, when you walk and talk, you don't stutter, do you? And she's like, no. He said, do you stutter when you sing? No. So he talked about all these situations. What he said and what they did, and this goes back to Biden, was it's something about like being metered when you talk. When you talk with a rhythm, that helps stop the stuttering. I don't understand it, but that's what they said. They're like, something about rhythm helps you to stop stuttering. It kind of fixes your brain, so you're like, okay, I have a rhythm, I don't stutter. And when he said it, I started looking at the way Biden talked. And Biden, I mean, he talked like, it sounds like he's reading from cue cards. But I was like, oh, you're doing that so you don't stutter. That's why you talk like that. That's like your trick so you don't stutter. He talked about singers, some singer he liked who used to be a bad stutterer, but he said he doesn't stutter when he sings because he's got this rhythm. So that was just like a funny thing about, yeah, like Steve Harvey. It was a funny thing about why Biden talks the way he does. And like somebody's, like people who say that don't understand like what Biden is doing. Just like people who are saying that Trump was stream of consciousness. It's like, oh, you don't understand. Like, you haven't watched a long stream of his speech, because then it would make sense why he talks like that. He knows what he's doing, my friend. Oh, good Lord. I remember this. This was a... Trump asked me to come to Wildwood, and I rode my Harley Davidson 3 hours from LIVESTREAM, New York. I stood up for 8 hours with no water, wearing a diaper. We are down with him. Sometimes you just get trolls. Number one, Trump's speech was not 8 hours. His speech was 90 minutes. But if you put a video out, you're going to get some trolls. That's just how it is. I've learned that. Let me see. Somebody said I'm blind, I can't see. Okay, whatever. Come November, it will be my third time not voting for Trump. Vote your conscience, but remember that the stakes are high, and if America gets this wrong, we won't be able to call it back. Biden 2024. Vote your conscience. I agree. Vote your conscience. Vote for who you believe is the best candidate. He did campaign in a swing state. No. Nope. That's just not true. I even told that person that. I'm like, Pennsylvania's a swing state. New Jersey's not even close. He knows, he's a criminal. Yeah, we always get all that stuff. People call me blind. People talk about prices. It was just funny. So there was, oops, yikes, kicked my stand. What do we have here? Couldn't disagree. Let me see. Couldn't disagree more about the. Let me see. Wait. That makes sense. Couldn't disagree more. Which part are you disagreeing with? Um, has anyone noticed he looks a lot like Stankonia ambassador? And he stopped stuttering for 60 years, apparently. Well, I mean, Trump is. I mean, like, Biden doesn't stutter now. But he does have this measured way of speaking. And after he did that interview and he explained that, that changed the way I looked at him speaking. It was like, oh, okay. I think that you talk that way because you're trying to prevent yourself from stuttering. It was very interesting to hear him talk about that. I might do a video about that Howard Stern interview because I just found it interesting. It was, he does stutter. Okay, so, right. I'm not saying Biden doesn't stutter at all. Yeah. What I'm saying is the way he talked about his stuttering as a kid, it was debilitating. I mean, he was talking about stuff like the King's Speech, if you've ever seen that movie, and that kind of stuff. So he had a horrible stutter. And what he does now compared to then, it's light years different. I have a cousin who's, he still stutters a little bit. My cousin had a really bad stutter when he was a kid. And it's funny, my cousin was a really good basketball player. He was a great shooter, but he was short. He's only like 5'6". So, like, okay, you're not going anywhere at 5'6". When he was on the basketball court playing basketball, he didn't stutter. But when he was just walking around with us, he had a bad stutter. Now, he's gotten a lot better. He still has a little bit of a stutter, but compared to where he was, no, he's figured it out. I don't know what his trick was. Now I'm kind of curious. Next time I see him, I'm going to have to ask him what his trick was because he did figure out what that was. He does. I don't remember him ever stuttering as a senator or VP though. See, that's the thing. All right, when he was a senator, I didn't see him doing long. Like I wouldn't watch a long speech of his as a senator, so I'd only see him in short segments. So he may have been stuttering, and I just didn't see it. Him as VP, again, I didn't really see a lot of him doing long speeches as VP. Once he's president, he's doing speeches. He's doing State of the Nation addresses. The game changes at that point. We do have the luxury of him being recorded, talking for 50 years. But when's the last time you listened to a long segment of Biden when he was just a senator? Like I never listened to him. I mean, I don't really care what senators say. I care what the president says. I kind of care what the vice president says. If you're not one of them and we're not in Congress or something like that, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to listen to a long speech. I'm going to go listen to the bullets. Like, give me the bullet points. I want to know the main idea behind what they said, and that's it. Didn't stutter in the VP debates in 2008 or 12. The crime bill Senate hearings, he didn't stutter once. All right, so let me ask you this, because, okay, good points. I don't remember him stuttering during the presidential address. I remember him, like, trying to remember a name. That doesn't count. But I thought that when he did the presidential address, that was fine. I didn't really notice stuttering there. In the Howard Stern interview, when he was talking about stuttering, I noticed him start stuttering a little bit. For the most part, he didn't really stutter that much. So I wouldn't label him as, like, I don't think he has a bad stuttering problem now. Not that I notice when I'm listening to him. But now that I know, about his stuttering problem and how he fixed it, I listen to him differently. Because when I hear him talking in a very measured fashion, I think, oh, you're doing that because of your stuttering issue. That's like your trick for stuttering. And he said it's situational. Like he said, if you talk on the phone, you're more inclined to. I don't know why. Like, if you talk on the phone, you're more inclined to stutter. Yeah, it's situation. I don't stutter, so I didn't have the issue. But it was just interesting to see. There's bound to be a compilation on YouTube I'm inclined to believe that they are trying to downplay his cognitive decline by using the stutter as an excuse. I don't think that. All right, if this is depends on what we mean. I mean, Biden is 81. I'm not gonna pretend like he's a spring chicken. I don't think Biden is senile. If that's where you're going. I know people say that. Biden has a measured pace to how he approaches things. And you might not agree with everything he says. That's different. But like I don't think he has dementia. I don't think he has something like that. Reagan did. And I'm not just speaking casually. I mean I've lost loved ones to dementia. So I know what that looks like. And what he does doesn't look, that's not dementia. Um, is he getting a little slower as he gets older? I wouldn't. Sure, that can happen. That happens to a lot of people. But I don't think he's like handicapped. I guess that's where I would go with it. Oh shoot. Okay. I got to work tomorrow. But this is a good crowd. This is a very good crowd. So I'm going to encourage everybody to click like and subscribe because when I do shows, yeah, there are a couple of people who I know couldn't attend tonight because, well, one of them's a buddy and he's just got married in Hong Kong. So, you know, he's got this Filipina who he's in love with, and, you know, they don't have time for me right now. Inmate one, it was nice talking to you too. I like having conversations just like this. This is a big part of why I have my channel. I want to have a conversation. I want people from the left. I want people from the right to all be able to sit down and have a conversation and talk. And it's not yelling and screaming. You can agree to disagree. But people talk through issues. It's like, all right, you explain your point. I explain my point. And then we see if we moved anybody at all. Viper 007, I enjoyed it. Definitely like and subscribe. Appreciate that. For anybody else who's in the audience, click like, click subscribe, click the notification bell. I try to do these, multiple times a week. I am on Tuesdays, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Unless I got some crazy work event, you can depend on that. But that's not the only time I stream. So if you want to catch more, hit the button. Last Good Man in Jersey signing out. See you next time.